A couple of young people are being called a modern-day Bonnie and Clyde. Two teens on the run from the law, both now in custody, and both accused of going on a 2-week-long crime spree that spanned a number of states. ABC's Marcy Gonzalez reports on how the cops caught him and what the suspects now are saying.
After 2 weeks on what police say was a multi-state crime spree with his 13-year-old girlfriend, today 18-year-old Dalton Hayes faced a judge in Florida. The runaway's adventure ending over the weekend when someone recognized them and called in a tip. U.S. Marshals and police found Hayes and Cheyenne Phillips asleep in this stolen truck parked behind an IHOP restaurant in Panama City Beach.
I need them home safe.
The teens ran away from their homes in Kentucky on January 4th, reportedly because their families didn't approve of their relationship.
He's told me that he loves her. He actually bought her an engagement ring.
The engaged couple accused of starting their spree by stealing this truck, crashing it into the woods a week later, then stealing this red Tacoma. The pair later spotted on surveillance video nearly 600 miles away at a Walmart in South Carolina, allegedly cashing stolen checks. Police say they then drove through Georgia, breaking into several homes along the way and stealing yet another truck with guns inside. That is the vehicle where they were found, tired and ready to surrender.
Dalton was scared, and Dalton wanted to come home. And Cheyenne, she voiced the same thing to me.
Both teens will be extradited to Kentucky to face a list of charges, likely including burglary and criminal mischief. We're told Hayes could also possibly be charged with kidnapping and statutory rape. Marcy Gonzalez, News Channel 8.
But wildfires are causing problems in Oklahoma. Raging grass fires north of Oklahoma City forced evacuations and road closures, which have since been lifted. More than 2,000 acres have burned. The fire threat follows low humidity and gusty winds.
Chaos on the road, such dangerous conditions all across the country. The ice blamed for hundreds of accidents, some deadly, and that incredible survival story. The driver pinned between trucks. He is alive now. ABC's Gio Benitez in Fort Lee, New Jersey with the latest. Good morning, Gio.
George, good morning to you. Many of those accidents happening along the I-95 corridor. That slippery, invisible black ice on the roads, creating a dangerous mess all across this country. This morning, a black ice nightmare across the country. Hundreds of accidents from Maine to Maryland, cars sent flying.
When I saw all the cars crisscrossing each other, it spun about 180 degrees.
I thought I was going to die.
The New York City Fire Department receiving more than 3,700 emergency calls Sunday, and this chain reaction 60-car pileup claiming one life on Pennsylvania's Schuylkill Expressway and injuring more than 30 others. This 11-car pileup on a highway nearby, killing 2 others. 30 vehicles piling up in New Jersey, injuring 16, including this man. Watch as first responders carry him to safety. And in the Bronx, New York, an 18-wheeler jackknife.
He just came by, took the whole highway with him.
Ice also wreaking havoc in the West. Look at this massive 26-car pileup on Oregon's I-84 Saturday. Right here, that's a Chevy Silverado crushed by 2 big rig trucks. And look closer, inside the mangled wreckage, the face of a man whose survival is now being called a miracle.
I just remember being spun around and squished and all the crunching metal and broken glass.
27-year-old Caleb Whitby had swerved to avoid a jackknife truck. The black ice leading other trucks to slam right into him, sandwiching him, enclosing him in metal.
I could see semi-lights coming, and I turned my face forward, gripped the wheel pretty tight, and said a prayer that everything would be okay.
Incredibly, everything was okay. Whitby walking away from the scene with just cuts and scrapes. And we're so glad he's okay, but these road conditions causing at least 5 others to lose their lives. So remember, if you find yourself on that black ice, just don't slam on the brakes. That is the #1 tip, Ginger.
The Mali government says the West African nation is now free from Ebola. In the last 6 weeks, there have been no new recorded cases of the deadly virus. With 6 deaths recorded, Mali has escaped the worst of the epidemic, which the World Health Organization says has killed more than 8,400 people in neighboring Guinea, Sierra Leone and Liberia. After 42 days of monitoring with no confirmed Ebola virus cases and in accordance with the International Sanitary Directive, I declare today, January the 18th, 2015, the end of the Ebola epidemic in Mali. From now on, travellers and goods will no longer be subject to special treatment. At one point, health officials in Mali had been monitoring over 300 people thought to have been in contact with infected persons. The last known infected patient recovered and left hospital early in December. The health minister thanked the government and his ministry for their efforts in putting an end to the outbreak. He also called on people to maintain the preventative methods of hygiene that they've been advised on applying throughout the crisis.
Dramatic pitches and steep banks, China shows off its next-generation fighter plane. This is the J-31, a stealth fighter.
It can come in, as the U.S. has stealth fighters, stealth bombers, come in a full-up radar environment and not be detected.
Analysts say this jet could be designed for mid to low-altitude attacks and may be deployed from an aircraft carrier. The J-31 looks stunningly like a late-model American stealth fighter, the F-35.
It's been pretty clear, and I think the U.S. government has been pretty clear in making its claims, which I have no reason to doubt, that Chinese hackers have been targeting defense contractors, U.S. government facilities, and others.
Several published reports say the Chinese got the blueprints for the F-35 through a cyber assault on a contractor for Lockheed Martin and built their fighter jet with the same specs. The Chinese have denied that. A Lockheed Martin official told us the Chinese didn't get the crown jewels, the most sensitive information about the F-35. China tested the J-31 right as President Obama was in Beijing for the Asia-Pacific Summit. It comes on the heels of China christening its first aircraft carrier, sending ships to islands whose territory has long been disputed. Analysts say this isn't about confronting America militarily, but about reducing U.S. military influence in its neighborhood.
What the Chinese military is trying to do is to be able to put their military out further from China, out into the Pacific, in the air, under the sea, and on the sea, in order to deter others from coming too close to China.
It's also about prestige. It's also about the status of China. It's also about using platforms like aircraft carriers to perform what's called military operations other than war, humanitarian relief. That kind of thing. The United States uses its aircraft carriers for that purpose quite a lot.
Analysts say China's still far behind the U.S. in pure hardware and raw military power.
After months of heavy fighting for control of Donetsk airport, these dramatic images captured by an aerial drone paint a startling picture of the devastation. Just months ago, this was a modern, functioning terminal, a gleaming symbol of economic progress in eastern Ukraine. Now it's a symbol of ruin. Recent days have seen a sharp upswing in violence and bloodshed. Ukrainian government forces on the offensive, using heavy weapons, seizing territory controlled by pro-Russian rebels. It's raising concerns Moscow may intervene, as it's been accused of doing in the past.
The decision was taken for a mass operation, which was successful. We have almost completely cleansed the territory of the airport, which belongs to Ukrainian forces, as marked by military separation lines.
But civilians continue to be caught in the crossfire. Last week, at least 12 people were killed on this passenger bus, shelled as it stood at a government checkpoint southwest of Donetsk. Both sides blame each other for the tragedy, though it seems to have hardened attitudes in Kiev. At a peace march in the Ukrainian capital to mourn the victims, the country's president was defiant.
We will not give up any piece of Ukrainian land. We will return Donbass. We will restore the Ukrainian nation there. And we will show that one more highly important factor of our victory is our unity.
But Ukraine appears far from united and may instead be on the brink of yet more violence.
That highway overpass crashing overnight. It's being called a catastrophic pancake collapse. One person was killed, another injured. ABC's Alex Perez is on the scene in Cincinnati. Good morning, Alex.
Good morning, George. Just a few hours earlier or later, and it would have been the middle of rush hour. Now, take a look behind me here. That semi and all that debris still in the middle of the highway. Authorities say they are lucky more people were not injured.
Report of an overpass at Hopple Street collapsing.
Overnight, a chaotic scene in Cincinnati. This overpass collapsing, sending several hundred tons of concrete and machinery plummeting onto the highway below.
Looks like we have a dismantled overpass collapsed down onto a semi-tractor trailer here.
Officials say the collapse happened around 10:30 Monday night. An overpass along Interstate 75 had been undergoing demolition when it gave way.
Something went wrong, and a tragedy has occurred as a result.
The falling rubble crushing a construction worker below, killing him, while a tractor trailer driving under the overpass crashing head-on into the collapsed portion of the bridge as it hit the ground. The driver miraculously surviving, transported to a nearby hospital for minor injuries.
But I can tell you that the big rig driver, the semi driver, is very lucky. Matter of seconds, and his fate would have probably been different as well.
The front of his truck, now mangled metal. Traffic on the busy I-75 halted. A section of the highway closed indefinitely as the cleanup and investigation into the tragic accident began.
Now to that new threat from ISIS, the brutal terror group, releasing a new video overnight, warning it will kill 2 more hostages unless they receive a $200 million ransom in the next 72 hours. ABC's Brian Ross is here with all those details. Good morning, Brian.
Well, good morning, Robin. Despite all the airstrikes by the U.S. and its allies against ISIS, it appears the ISIS hostage propaganda crew and its British spokesperson are still very much in business. This morning, threatening those 2 Japanese citizens, one of them a freelance journalist. The tape was posted online in the last few hours. Same desert setting, same orange jumpsuit, and it seems the same threats of beheading delivered by the ISIS terrorist who has been dubbed Jihad John because of his British accent. Today he said the 2 men would be executed if the Japanese government did not pay a $200 million ransom in the next 3 days.
You now have 72 hours to pressure your government.
The Japanese government quickly responded this morning, with the Prime Minister on a trip to Israel saying he would not give in to terrorism. I strongly demand, he said, the Islamic State not harm the 2 Japanese citizens and release them immediately. The massive campaign of airstrikes by the U.S. and its allies began almost 5 months ago in the wake of a series of other hostage videos that shocked the world. Among the targets, strikes from the air were aimed at disrupting the ISIS propaganda machine. Today's video suggests the brutal terror group has somehow found a way to rebound. ISIS continues to hold at least one more American, a female 26-year-old humanitarian aid worker. The fact that she was not referred to on today's tape will come as one small piece of good news for her family, which has been quietly working behind the scenes to seek her release, Robin.
A family devastated, in shock tonight after their 18-month-old little boy, Declan Moss, was attacked and killed by two family dogs.
The child's been out in the yard playing with the dogs before, and nothing, you know.
Neighbors tell 8 on your side the dogs were pit bulls and have had problems before with other smaller dogs and killed them. Declan's grandfather was babysitting when he heard the child in trouble. By the time he got there, he couldn't get the dogs off the baby and off of each other. He called 911, but it was too late.
Obviously, even those of us who work with death and dying and serious injury every day, the firefighters on scene, I talked to them a little bit earlier, and they were heartbroken, and the deputies as well.
Well, in the past 45 minutes, 10 News learned new information about the Black Hawk helicopter that went down at the Ramona Airport tonight. We first brought you these images of the helo on its side from the breaking news tracker during 10 News at 7:30. Well, the chopper crashed on the west side of the runway, injuring 2 people inside. 10 News reporter Dan Haggerty is now there live with new information just coming into the newsroom.
Well, we knew it was the tower that gave them permission to take off. We also know it was the tower that announced they had crashed before even leaving the airport grounds. This shot's the best you'll see of the UH-60 Black Hawk helicopter from the National Guard base in Los Alamitos on its side. If you look closely, the rotors sheared off in the crash. This map shows you our camera's perspective, zooming from the parking lot near the control tower to the end of the lone runway at Ramona Airport. Deputies let us get this close, but no closer, guarding every gate around the tarmac. When this helo went down, there were 2 men on board, pilot and co-pilot. Anytime one of these crashes, it can be deadly, of course, but authorities say both men were able to crawl from the wreckage and walk away before being evaluated at the hospital. While we wait for information, some witnesses took to our 10 News Facebook page. JJ Sullivan wrote, "We saw it coming in low, and my kids ran out to wave to it. I found it odd that a military helicopter was flying so low and close to Mount Woodson. Hope everyone is okay."